Welcome back to another episode of Health Crusaders. I'm your host, Bob Priest. And as you know, this podcast is all about exploring the most powerful health solutions available today, especially those that go beyond mainstream medicine. One of the most exciting breakthroughs in health and wellness is redox signaling molecules, a discovery that has won 7 Nobel Prizes and is changing lives around the world, including my own. I've personally experienced the benefits of redox technology,
Mm.
and it's why I'm so passionate about sharing this information with you. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome someone who shares that same passion, Cathey Painter. She's a board certified traditional naturopath who has dedicated her career to educating and coaching people so they can take control of their health. Her journey started in television as a writer and a producer, where she developed deep research skills that she now uses to uncover cutting edge healing protocols that most people have never heard of. One of those game changers is redox molecules and how this discovery can support cellular health, longevity, and vitality. Both Cathey and I believe that everyone deserves to know about redox and how it can transform health from the inside out. That's why we are both proud to be part of the redox revolution, spreading the word, sharing the science, and helping people reclaim their health naturally. So let's get started. Cathey, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. And you're absolutely right. I'm very passionate about these redox molecules. And when I first found out about them, I did deep research and I was just so excited for two reasons. Number one, my husband had a health challenge and I knew this was going to help him. And I'll get into that in just a second. But when I did the research, first of all, in naturopath school, we learned that anybody who has a chronic health issue or a life-threatening health issue, they definitely have mitochondrial dysfunction. And years earlier, I had been to a world famous clinic in Santa Barbara, and the doctor there, told me that before they do anything with any of their patients that come in, they have to determine if the immune system recognizes the problem. Now, I had never heard that concept before. And he said, yes, how do you think somebody has abnormal cells and they spread all over the body really quick? He says it's because the immune system doesn't even recognize there's a problem and therefore does nothing to stop it. Well, fast forward 15 years later, I find out about these molecules that not only improve cellular health, they improve the mitochondria, which is the battery inside every cell. They also are used and needed for redox cellular signaling. This is how our cells communicate. This is how our immune system gets the communication of what the problem is, where it is, and what needs to be fixed, and how,
Yeah.
what needs to be done. So when I was first introduced to this, I was just like, wow, this is the missing link to optimal health. And so, I told you my husband had a health challenge. He had an abnormal cell issue that had come back after being in remission for 10 years, but this time it showed up in the bones.
Oh no.
Yeah. And he was working with a medical doctor doing all those treatments, but it wasn't making the abnormal cells go away. And so I immediately put him on these molecules. And now I will tell you, he was drinking twice the amount that the average person drinks, but he had a serious health challenge. So 2.5 months into drinking these molecules, the doctor orders an in-depth scan. Well, a couple of days later, my husband and I would go in for the results. The doctor he has his head buried in the folder that has the results. And he's staring, staring, staring. And I'm like, oh goodness, what's wrong? And then he just blurts out, he says, well, this is very interesting. There's no abnormal cells in the bones. Now, now normally, I would have shared what we were doing, but this doctor had such an attitude and was so against anything outside of what he, prescribed. I just didn't even go down that road. So, of course, my husband continues to drink the molecules all throughout the next year. He's looking great. He's feeling great. His numbers are fantastic. Well, the year goes by and the doctor says it's time for another in-depth scan. We go in for the results and the doctor just blurts out, you are a miracle patient. There's no abnormal cells anywhere in the body. So, for your listeners, I hope that helps them understand. I mean, in that moment, my husband and I had the most amazing relief. We were experiencing joy and gratitude. And I would never want somebody to miss out on that because they did not know about these molecules. And if you think that's a rare occurrence of what happened with my husband, it's not.
Nope.
I mean, we see this happening all over the world. And then, of course, I work with people in my traditional naturopath business, and what I've seen just blows my socks off. Um, the reason I call this my most powerful health and wellness tool is because it doesn't matter what the health issue is.
Mm.
When you replenish your dwindling supply of redox molecules, you power the mitochondria, you improve redox cellular signaling, and then the body's ability to heal and repair is brought back up to optimal levels. And I've seen it over and over and over again.
I'm one of those stories too. I had a stroke a few years back,
Oh, wow.
and before I ever heard about redox biology, and it was shared with me by a close friend, and I started drinking the molecules just like you talked about, and I did it at a higher level of dosage than what it recommends. And within a matter of 14 days, all the inflammation that I was struggling with, really
Mhm.
struggling bad, I mean, I had a hard time moving, went away.
Wow.
It was gone. And I haven't had a problem with inflammation since. Um, so I'm a product of that as well, not near as dire as what you were sharing.
Mhm.
But and I'm having people all around me that are having similar experiences. So
Right.
I know I found it interesting when I was reading your bio that you started off in writing and film and stuff like that. How did
Mhm.
you find that transition from that part of your life into the part that you're in now?
Well, um, first of all, I grew up in an unusual household. I mean, in the 60s and 70s, my mother was going to health seminars when nobody else was doing that. My mother did not allow sodas in our house. I remember feeling so deprived because there was no way she was going to buy TV dinners. She knew back then that was just junk food. So I grew up with that. I also grew up with a grandmother who was Christian scientist. Now, Christian scientists believe in healing naturally. They will go to the doctor if it's something serious like a broken bone or whatever. But so I grew up in that atmosphere. Okay. And so, um, but I loved the entertainment business. I loved working in television as a writer and producer. And I started in the days when, everybody did not have a computer at their desk. So we did research kind of the old fashioned way, and we have to get on the phone and go to the library and this and that or whatever. But that really served me well. And then what happened was my husband was diagnosed with the abnormal cell issue for the first time. And I was really shaken. I mean, my husband was young. This is not supposed to happen when you're young. And I just said, okay, I am going to attack this as if I was doing a segment on television where you have to trust but verify everything that you are, exposed to. Well, I found out that the treatments they were offering, I had I got access to the doctor's database, and I saw that one of the treatments that they were offering um, caused a 60% greater chance of metastasis. I said,
Oh
who
my.
in their right mind would go down that road if they had that information? And
Exactly.
and that's why informed consent is crucial, crucial. And I've been on that crusade since 2014. I've flown to our capital in Sacramento, educating our legislators and all of that. But anyway, so as I did the deep dive on the research, um, I discovered protocols that could help him. And my husband still was on the fence. He said, I think I still want to do surgery. Well, there was a backlog and he wouldn't be able to get in for surgery for 3 months. And I said, we're not going to sit around and do nothing. Well, by the time that 3 months passed, because of all the protocols and things we did, it was gone. Abnormal cell issue gone. And so then what happened was I started getting phone calls. The word got out. I had a TV executive reach out to me, and he was doing a clinical trial at one of the big hospitals here. And after 1 month, he was the only one in the clinical trial that was free of abnormal cells. So you can imagine the word, getting out.
Right.
And then a friend of mine said, Cathey, she was a chiropractor. She said, Cathey, you're helping too many people. You have to go back to school and get a credential. And that was it. I went back to school and became a traditional naturopath. And now here's the other interesting thing about that. I did learn a lot, but I will say that 90% of what I use today in my practice, it's due to things that I've learned outside of my training. If you are a healthcare provider, you must never, ever stop learning. You must never, ever stop digging deeper. And unfortunately, the way our Western medical system is set up, those people are so busy working all day, they don't even have time to learn new things and do their own research.
Yeah, you're right. It's
Yeah,
kind of sad.
it is.
That's an interesting story, and isn't it interesting how we can be going down one path and just one thing comes along, kind of
Yeah,
upsets the apple cart, and the next thing we know, we're going a new direction. And that's what happened to me after having my stroke. And I did not like what I was hearing from Western medicine, and the medicines that I was having to take at the time. I didn't feel good on them. A lot of them
right.
didn't even do anything for me, especially in the pain area. And so
Hmm.
and I'm nowhere as far in depth into it as you are, but I follow people like you and listen to the things that you talk about because that has helped me to heal in my own process. However, the redox has been the big aha moment. That's the one thing
Right,
that happened that has to be a part of my life 24/7 now, not just every once in a while. And
right.
that's where I want to transition. Let's do a deep dive into holistic health and redox molecules. I
Hmm.
think, Cathey, one of the things that we both agree on is that knowledge is everything. And you just talked about that.
Right,
When it comes to health, and so many people are struggling, yet they have no idea that solutions like redox technology even exist. So let's
right.
expand on redox biology, how this breakthrough is revolutionizing the world of health. Let's talk
Mhm.
about that a little bit.
Okay, well, all right. The first thing when I learned about these redox molecules, the very first thing that literally blew my socks off was the studies that show that when you drink these molecules, you have a 800% increase in the efficacy of the glutathione that your body is manufacturing. Now, glutathione is the master antioxidant, master detoxifier of the body. And, I always teach my clients if you're not gently detoxing on a daily basis, you are accumulating toxins, and that will eventually cause health issues. And, yes, it's true. Chronic disease it's an epidemic.
Hmm.
We have to also understand why it's an epidemic. It's an epidemic because, especially in our country, we have allowed profits to rule what's allowed in our food supply, what's allowed to be spewed into the air and our water and even our medications. And so we are dealing at a toxicity level never before seen in history. And I would even argue that, as far as industrialized countries, our country has the most toxins. I mean, if you go over to Europe, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of toxins that are banned in Europe, but we still allow them here. So that's the other thing, is just becoming aware of why we are experiencing that, and understanding that even if you eat an organic diet and you do all the right things and you take the superfoods, I believe you still must have these redox molecules. And the reason I believe that is because, as a traditional naturopath, I've worked with people that have done all the right things and they're still not getting the results they want. But when they add in these redox molecules, it's like bingo.
Hmm.
Then they start to see the results. And the reason is because, you know, science tells us that beginning at the age of 11 or 12, there is a natural decline in your cells' production of these redox molecules. And I think where the real trouble comes is that science also tells us stress and toxins further lower the production. I think there's a lot of children that are deficient in these molecules, because by the time we know that newborn babies are born with over 700 toxins already in their body.
Wow.
And so that's what we're dealing with. And so when you drink these molecules, you not only are increasing the efficacy of the glutathione your body manufactures, you're doing it every time you drink these molecules. Now, in naturopath school, we learned that glutathione supplements are a waste of time and money. Your body really cannot manufacture glutathione from glutathione. And when you go and get a glutathione IV, yes, you are flooding your whole body with glutathione, and you do get results, but they only last for 48 hours, and it's very expensive. Most people can't afford the $200, $300, $400, $500 every time you get a glutathione IV. But here's the other thing. When your own body manufactures glutathione, there is what I call a divine intelligence. The intelligence of the body will send that glutathione exactly where it's needed and not where it's not needed.
Hmm.
And that is the true magic, except it's not magic, it's science.
Science.
You know, it's science. And so now the other thing I want your listeners to understand, when a pharmaceutical company wants to bring a new drug to market, all they have to show the FDA is a measly 3% improvement. I mean, I'm sorry, but that's a joke. The placebo effect is 2%. Okay. So again, when I did the research and found that this improves the efficacy of glutathione by 800%, I was literally on the floor.
Say that
Now,
one more time. How many percent? 100.
800%.
That
Now,
that's rather noticeable, isn't it?
that's amazing. Amazing. And knowing that, okay, I'm gonna tell you another testimony. I had someone that called me from Portland, Oregon. She said, Cathey, you don't know me, but your colleagues suggested that I should call you because you do a lot of research. She had a problem with her liver enzymes up in the 900s. Now, your liver enzymes are supposed to be between 10 and 25. She was literally in a life-threatening situation. She was working with a medical doctor, doing their medications. Her liver enzymes were not even coming down by 1 point. She was working with a naturopath physician doing all sorts of IV treatments, including glutathione. Her liver enzymes were not even coming down by 1 point. So I told her, I said, yes, I've got something that will help you. I knew these redox molecules were going to help her. I didn't realize how fast. I put her on a higher dose than the average person. After 1 week, she calls me in tears. This is a miracle. My liver enzymes came down by 150 points.
Wow.
The next week, another 150 points. Every week after that, it was between 100 and 125 points till they were back down to normal. Now, one could say this saved her life. I will say that because I know, that if
Mhm.
this problem didn't turn around, it was going to be life threatening. Now, why do I believe this helped her when everything else wouldn't? Two things. Number one, we know when there is a problem, gene signaling pathways get suppressed. When you drink these molecules and you improve your redox cellular signaling, the gene signaling pathways get improved too. And I'll talk about the studies in that in just a second. But I also believe that there was a reason, and I suspect I know what it was, that this woman was experiencing some severe toxicity from a protocol that she was doing. So the glutathione that her body was manufacturing now was working 800% better, but it was being sent to the area that it was needed the most.
Mm.
And that's why those treatments that the doctor and the naturopath physician were not doing the trick because there wasn't intelligence involved. Does that make sense?
That does make sense.
Yeah. So now I want your listeners to understand too that we've got third-party double-blind placebo studies that show that 100% of the people that drink these molecules, they experience a 21 to 31% improvement in the first 8 weeks in 5 key gene signaling pathways: inflammation, immune system, cardiovascular, digestion, and hormone modulation. Now, that is absolutely huge. And I will tell you that if this was a drug, it would be considered the blockbuster drug of all time. There is not another
Mhm.
drug on the market where you get those kind of results in 100% of the people that take the drug. Now, thank God this is not a drug. It's an over-the-counter, um, you know, it's not sold in stores. You have to reach out to an associate like me or Bob. Um, but it's safe. It doesn't interfere with any medication, any medical procedure. You can't drink too much. It's literally safe enough for a brand new baby.
And I think that's important. I've been asked so many times, will I take all this medicine? What will be the interaction with the medicine? And
Mhm.
the answer to that is
It doesn't interact.
doesn't interact because
Yeah.
it's native to our body, correct?
Right, right,
Yeah.
right, right. Your body knows exactly what to do with it. If you drink more than you need in any given moment, well, it's just going to turn those molecules back into saline.
Hmm.
I mean, it's such a beautiful thing.
And
Such a beautiful.
the molecules are made out of saline, right?
Exactly. Salt and water, just the exact same way your own cells manufacture redox molecules. Sometimes it's hard for people to wrap their head around the fact that redox molecules are just made from salt and water. But when you understand that your own cells sit in a pool of saline, and when your cells go to manufacture the redox molecules, they take the saline, which is salt and water, and rearrange the molecules to become redox molecules.
And that's where the
It's
science
really
comes in and plays with it that us average
right.
people don't understand.
Yeah. I mean, I will tell you, as somebody that knows a lot about frequency treatments, I believe that these biotech scientists must have figured out a way to use frequency to rearrange these molecules. Um, what I don't can't wrap my head around at all is the atomic physicist that learned how to stabilize them. But thank God he did, because
Absolutely.
redox molecules are very fleeting. If your body doesn't like when your body makes a redox molecule, if it's not used in the first couple of minutes, then it just turns back to saline. And but there was an atomic physicist that figured out how to stabilize it so they could put it into bottles and that we could drink them and replenish our body's dwindling supply.
And they stay stable in that bottle until we take them out and drink them, right?
Right. Well, they say 2 to 3 years, but I've also heard people say that even past that, they're still viable. But I know there's an FDA thing where you have to put an expiration date.
Yeah.
So
It's going to
yeah,
be gone before 2 to 3 years if it's in my household.
exactly. Me too. Me too. Me too.
You know,
And
Cathey, go ahead.
yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, and the other thing I was going to say to your listeners, I also look at redox molecules as something that I always have on hand for first aid. What do I mean by that? Well, if you are coming down with something, or if you're in an accident, you're going to want to drink more of these molecules. But if you don't have them on hand, and you have to order them, it's going to take 3 to 5 days to receive them in the
Mhm.
mail. And so, in my household, I always have a really good supply, because when you need them, you need to start drinking them
Right,
right away.
right. So if you feel a cold coming on, I just immediately start taking more. And
Exactly.
typically, I divert that cold from really taking hold. Uh,
Exactly.
I even use it with my animals. I have a couple dogs, and we will have them drink that, or we'll use the gel, the version of it that's in a gel form,
Right.
to put on
Right.
cuts and bruises and places on them
Right.
and or us. So it's amazing. You know,
Yeah.
many people unknowingly sabotage their health.
Hmm.
What are some of the biggest mistakes you see, and what are some simple steps people can take to turn things around?
Okay. Well, a couple of things. People live in a state of dehydration because they're not drinking enough water. And especially when you're drinking these molecules, you want to drink enough water throughout the day so that when the glutathione helps you detox, you drink the water to usher those toxins completely out of your body.
Hmm.
So that's, one thing I see. I see a lot of people just not drinking enough water. Um, the other thing is seed oils. Oh my goodness. Start reading labels. Seed oils cause inflammation in the body. Probably the biggest, most, prevalent seed oil is canola oil.
Hmm.
In my house, if something has canola oil, it is going to be thrown in the trash. That's how much I know and how dangerous I know canola oil is. But the others are like safflower oil, sunflower oil, peanut oil, soybean oil, especially hydrogenated soybean oils. That's a simple pivot. All you got to do is read labels and buy the products that instead are used with avocado oil or coconut oil or ghee. That will make a huge difference for you. Those are two things right off the bat that are simple to implement.
And that's important too, because you talked about inflammation. And
Yeah,
I hear people all the time talk about the pain, and usually that pain's associated with inflammation.
right.
And they the first thing they want to do is throw an ointment on it or something of that nature that
Hmm.
kind of masks the pain. It doesn't really do
Right.
anything. It just masks it. In fact, I was listening to Dr. Walker last night talk about that. Somebody asked a question about one of these known name products for
Hmm.
pain. And he says, well, the first thing that happens when you put it on, because of the coolness of it, you automatically feel like you don't have pain because of the receptors. He said,
Right.
but within a matter of minutes, when that kind of wears off, he said, do you still have pain? And the majority of people do.
Right.
We have a new product now called Redox Gold that is a miracle. I've never had anything that worked like that works. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. Well, first of all, I want to tell you my husband's testimony with that. He had been out hiking. We kind of live in the mountains, and he was hiking with our dog. And he came in. And he says, "I've injured my knee. I can't even walk on it. It hurts so bad. I'm gonna have to have knee surgery." I said, "Well, hang on, hang on." I had gotten my hands on the Redox Gold before it ever even came out, and I said, "Let's just try this." So we put it on his knee. And yes, the discomfort went away, but it did keep coming back. I said, okay, we're going to just keep applying this. And in his line of work, he can't work if he can't walk also. So anyway, he was just so freaked out. And I said, look, we're going to watch TV tonight. I'm just going to apply it every hour. So I did. And by the time he went to bed, it was doing great. But when he woke up the next morning, he was in awe. He said, Cathey, it's like nothing ever happened to my knee.
How about that?
And then the next week he was doing a shoot that was very, very intense. And he'd come home every night. How's your knee? It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. I was blown away. So, just so your listeners will understand, this new product, it's the next generation of redox. And what the scientists discovered was that they discovered when they mixed the redox molecules and infused them with gold, 24 karat micronized gold, it created a synergy that amplified the NRF2 pathway. Now, that is the pathway that when there's inflammation in the body, it gets hopefully the communication that, hey, there's some inflammation. And the NRF2 pathway is what directs the body to manufacture more
Mm.
glutathione. And in fact, the study showed that the pathway is greatly activated, and then you end up with 280% more glutathione. But again,
Wow.
because your body's manufacturing this glutathione, that glutathione is sent directly to where you are experiencing discomfort. If you've got something that hurts, for my husband, it was his knee. So every time I applied that Redox Gold, he got a big shot of glutathione. Now, when you've got an antioxidant, you lower the inflammation. And when you have the glutathione, you also detoxify.
Hmm.
Because when you're experiencing discomfort, lactic acid can gather, which, is a vicious cycle. It causes discomfort, inflammation. And so the beautiful thing about this, not only does it rapidly improve the situation as far as if something's hurting, it also speeds up healing. So if anybody out there is experiencing discomfort, whether it's sudden, chronic, or severe, or you've got something that hurts, a knee, a neck, a lower back, your feet, whatever, you've got to try this Redox Gold.
Yeah, it's
Now,
it's
and,
amazing.
and, and let me point out one other thing. When you use over-the-counter pain medications, most people don't know this. You instantly block your glutathione.
Mm. That's
That's
what you
not good.
don't want to do that, do you?
You don't want to do that. So, it becomes a vicious cycle. The pain medication, yes, can mask the pain, but it can also hinder the body's ability to heal.
Mm. And that's where we have that sabotage thing come in
Right,
because
right.
we just don't and we've not been trained to do this. We just don't have the knowledge
Exactly.
of what's really the right protocols, even on something as simple as that. And
Right.
so it's, in my opinion, my thought process, and I'm a pretty common sense guy, is if I just put the redox in my body and I use
Hmm.
the redox gel on the outside of my body,
Right.
for the most part, I should be doing all the right things unless something
Absolutely.
catastrophic comes along, but it's still going to help even in that case, based on the testimony
Absolutely.
of your husband.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, in my household, we avoid those over-the-counter medications like the
Same here.
plague. We just do because we know the dangers. The other thing that I worked with a lot of people that have major stomach issues. And then when I do a little history on them, I find out that, oh, they had chronic headaches. What they do every day, they were taking these pain medications. Well, guess what they do? They can destroy the lining of the stomach.
Yeah.
They can overload the liver. Most people don't realize that if you are on a pain medication, like something over the counter, you can only take it 4 times in a 7-day period. And a lot of people are taking it a couple of times a day every
Yeah.
day. And that warning is just not it's not visible enough. People don't understand
Yeah.
the damage.
They ruin their liver, they ruin their kidneys.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, it's really there she goes with that shot. I know what that
I
was.
know. I know. Gotta have it. Gotta have it.
Folks, Cathey and I both are on a mission to spread the word about redox. Obviously, you can tell in our conversation because we know it has the potential to help so many people. And even the couple testimonials you heard helped people. The problem is most people have never even heard of it. And that's why education is so important. So we want to kind of wrap up with the education, the redox education. You offer free webinars throughout the course of the week, don't you?
Yes, I do.
Tell us a
They're
little bit
all
about that.
well, you know, I decided that I needed to bring this to a wider audience than just the people that work with me in my traditional naturopath business. And so I offer a free 20-minute webinar every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, and every Saturday morning, 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 noon Eastern. Anybody's welcome to come. You can bring people that you want to introduce to this. It's 20 minutes. And at the end of the 20-minute presentation, we open it up to Q&A.
Yeah.
And, if I could just say one thing to your listeners, over the course of my lifetime journey into optimal health, I would say the number one thing that I've learned is to keep an open mind. Because, you know, if you're not open-minded, you may miss out on the very thing that can help turn your health around. I've seen it over and over and over again. And I'm just very open-minded. I will look at anything, I will research anything. I will never, ever look at something and go, oh, no way, forget it. No, because I understand that there's a lot of things out there that we haven't been taught about.
Right.
And it's very easy to say no. But you may miss out on the very thing that could turn your health around.
And
And
that's such a good point too, because when I started using the redox technology and I was, this is after my stroke, I went into my doctor and brought it up and they didn't have a clue what I was talking about.
Mhm.
And I asked them, I said, you do know about redox biology, don't you? And they said, yeah, that was about a paragraph in a book that we studied back in the beginning of our education. And the thing is that what, 15, 20 years ago, it was all about antioxidants.
well,
And
that was 40 years ago. Well, for the
was
last
it
40
that long
years,
ago? Gosh, 40
40,
years
yeah,
ago. And it was a big thing about antioxidants. And so all the wild things that were out there were about that.
yeah,
But really what science has found is that the redox biology piece was what was missed even 40 years ago. Is that correct?
right. Right. Yeah. I mean, 40 years ago, nobody knew about antioxidants, and then they came on the scene. Of course, today everybody knows about them. But the scientists are saying that the next 40 years is all about redox.
Yeah. And there's been over 25 universities now that have opened up
Right.
studies, even opened
Right.
up entire buildings that they're
Yeah.
studying redox. And
Right.
from if I'm correct me if I'm wrong, because I know you're a little further in the now of this, but there's been numerous ones of those come to our corporation and talk to them. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Because, we are the only company that has a redox molecule supplement. So when these prestigious universities want to do research on redox molecules, they come to this company and use our redox molecules in their research.
It's
So it's
amazing.
pretty amazing. Pretty
That's
amazing.
amazing.
Yeah.
So, what you really said is that the mindset of people needs to kind of change internal
Yeah.
a bit. And
Yeah.
and I think this is even another way to say it is that people need to fall in love with taking care of themselves and
Right.
not give their power totally away to another person.
Right. Well, I always say too, I teach my clients, never ever blindly put your health in somebody else's hands, especially a doctor. You need a second and third opinion. You need to do your own research, um, and you need to be open-minded.
Yeah, and that open-minded piece is so important because we can miss an opportunity. This is a great opportunity to help heal our bodies, to help our
Right.
bodies really improve, no matter what stage we're in. But it's
Hmm.
also an opportunity in this economy that we're dealing with. It's an opportunity there also, if you want to look further into it.
Right.
Um, don't want to miss this, but I really encourage you to hop on one of Cathey's webinars.
Mhm.
You can contact me, and I have the link for that. We'll post that also in my description at the end of this podcast so that you'll have that opportunity. And and tell Cathey or me when you get on there that you heard about this on this podcast. That
Right.
would be a great way for us to get the word out. So let's talk
Right.
about a final takeaway today, Cathey. If you could leave our listeners with one powerful message about their health and redox, what would it
Hmm.
be?
Well, as somebody that's worked with so many people who have life-threatening issues, invest in your health before you need to recover your health. And one of the greatest investments you could make is drinking these redox molecules. I promise you, if you have to recover your health, you're going to spend a lot more money. And in today's world, you have to step up to the plate and take 100% responsibility for your own health. Nobody's going to do it. Your doctor's not going to do it. If you're in high school or college, they're not going to teach you how to do it. You have to step it up to the plate and learn.
Right.
And and in the end, I think we all want the very same things. We want to look good, we want to feel good, and we want to be able to live life to the fullest until our last days on this earth. And you can only experience those three things if you have your health.
Absolutely. That's a great way to wrap this up is take responsibility,
Mhm.
research, make sure that you know there's other things out there because there's a lot of other things out there, but not like this, not like
Right,
redox technology.
right.
Man, this has been an incredible conversation, and I can't thank you enough for sharing your expertise and passion with us today. Can you just tell our folks how they can reach you? I know you've got Facebook and websites and all that because listen, folks, Cathey is very intuitive in this world of health.
Mhm.
And from a naturopath standpoint, which is I'm finding more and more in my life is the way to go. You want to reach out to her for other things that maybe that you want to have conversations. So please share that with us.
Well, I need to redo my website, so don't go to my website, but you can find me. You can find me on Instagram and TikTok under Cathey Painter Wellness. And I do work with clients, and I offer everybody a complimentary 15-minute phone consultation because I want to make sure that I have the expertise to help you. If I don't, I will let you know, and I'll try to refer you to somebody that does. And I also want to see if it's a good fit. So I think that you can probably leave my email address in the show notes, but my email is Cathey, Cathey at Cathey Painter, just like an artist, Painter.com. That's Cathey at CatheyPainter.com. Reach out to me, make sure that, you tell me that you heard about me through, Bob's podcast, because I really do just work with people that are referred to me most of the time. So
That's absolutely good. This technology and breakthrough in health and wellness, it's something that both you and I are deeply committed to sharing with the world. So if
Mhm.
you want to learn more about this, please reach out to one of us.
Yeah.
I would definitely encourage you to go to this free webinar because you've heard a lot of what she talks about in that webinar today, but she goes even further. And
Okay.
then when you have the visual along with it, it's going to make a more powerful impact. Man, I've enjoyed this episode having you on here, and I know you're a busy lady, and but I thank you for coming. Please, folks, subscribe to my podcast, leave a review, and share with someone who needs to hear this. There's a lot of people that need to hear this one episode alone. And remember this, your health is the greatest wealth. So take care of yourself, stay informed, and keep thriving. Until next time, stay well and stay empowered. Thank you so much. Thank you, Cathey, for being with us.
My pleasure.